In this particular video, I'd like to suggest that the matter of PMO and the matter of being able to conquer one's PMO habit is really a very simple matter. It might surprise you to hear you say that. You might be somebody who has struggled with it and failed and been defeated by it for maybe 2 or 3 or 4 decades. And for you to hear me say that having victory in this matter of PMO is a simple matter may even arouse a bit of anger on your part. It's simple, and I'm going to try to convince you of that today. It's not necessarily easy. It can be very easy, but oftentimes it's not easy, but it never stops being simple. So today I'd like to show you why and how it is simple, how it can simply be done. And then in the next video, what I'm going to show you is why one continues to fail, despite the fact that it's simple. There's one reason why a person continues to fail over and over and over again. And in the next video, I'm going to show you what that one reason is. Okay? Today, getting over PMO, conquering the habit of PMO is really a simple matter. It really involves 4 steps, and they can be done very quickly. And of course, they're simple steps. Here, let me walk through these steps with you that I think would make it compelling that it's not a complicated matter. Number 1 is if a person's going to have victory over PMO, he needs to learn how to recognize when he's coming under temptation. Now, whether it's temptation from his own sinful desires, which are very, very possible, or whether it's temptation that's coming from the evil one, who is the tempter, who seeks to tempt us in those ways, or a combination of those two, the person who's going to be overcoming PMO is going to learn how to recognize the temptation at a very, very early stage. Let me give you why I say that. If you're under temptation, but you recognize it in the 8th and the 9th inning, using a baseball metaphor, you're toast. You're done. There's no turning back from that sexual sin. If you're going to conquer PMO, you're going to have to learn how to recognize it in the 1st inning. Now, how can you recognize that you're coming under temptation? Number 1 is your mind is you're going to be laying in bed, you'll be at the office in front of your computer, in front of your iPad, you may be alone, in your study, you may be working, any number of possible locations. But nonetheless, when you come under temptation, your mind is going to go in the direction of conjuring up certain images, sexual images, pornographic images, that have been very seductive to you and have been a great doorway into getting aroused and enabling you to have an erection and, of course, an orgasm. So there's something going on in the mind when you're becoming tempted. It's coming from your own heart, or it's coming from without, but irrespective of that, you imagine a particular woman or women who come to mind, and that's an early warning that you're coming under temptation. Number 2, coming under temptation. You're going to notice that you have some sort of sexual desire. Now, it's not full-blown as it would be in the 8th and 9th inning, but it's very early. But there's a very early signs of sexual arousal that can tip you off and inform you and educate you that you are coming under temptation, and you're going to have to deal with it very properly. And at that point, you're probably thinking, number 3, the temptation. A third way of recognizing temptation is that you're probably considering the orgasm that's only minutes away from you. And when you have that orgasm, you're pondering and delighting and looking forward to the relief that orgasm is going to give you. You'll stop being bored. You'll stop being anxious. You'll be relaxed. You'll calm down. You won't be agitated. And your mind will also probably conjure up what will happen if I proceed through this temptation to its final fruition. Okay? Now those are 3 very early signs that you can recognize really in this 1st inning or within the first few seconds of coming under temptation. Not complicated. And it's always going to be the same, and you have to learn what it's going to be for you. Same thoughts, same sexual arousal, same desire for the relief that you're going to get after you have an orgasm after masturbating. That's the part one. You have to learn how to recognize that very, very early. Everyone who's successful in getting rid of PMO in their life has learned how to recognize it within the first few seconds. 10, 5, 10, 15 seconds at the most. Okay. Number two, after recognizing the temptation, well, the scriptures tell us that what we're to do in that case is we are to draw near to God. In Ephesians chapter 6, previous video you can look up into more detail, tells us that to do spiritual warfare, what we have to do is put on the belt of truth. And so the second step is when I come under temptation, I have to draw near to the one in my heart who is truth. That's how I put on the belt of truth. It's the two-step process of putting on the belt of truth, which is the armor that I need to do to be successful in battling this temptation with PMO. So number one, recognize the temptation. But number two, what I need to do in my heart, not with my lips and not in my heart, but in my heart, I need to draw near to God prayerfully and continue to draw near to Him. That's the second thing that we need to do when we come under temptation. Recognize the temptation, draw near to Him, and continue to pray and draw near to Him in your heart. Now, the great thing is that God promises something that's glorious. If we do that, He promises to draw near to us and provide us with the divine resources that we need to get past that temptation. If you don't turn to Him, you're likely not to have the resources. But He's going to give you divine resources. If you recognize the temptation quickly, you draw near to Him over a season of time, minutes perhaps, a few seconds, minutes at least. But if you draw near to Him in your heart, He will draw near to you. That's not complicated. That's fairly simple, okay? Recognize the temptation, draw near to God. That happens all within 5, 10, 15 seconds. Number three is as you're doing that, the scriptures would tell you to flee sexual temptation. So what does that look like? What that means is as you're going through step number one, recognizing and drawing near to God, you need to get up and flee you need to change your location. You need to move away from the source of temptation, the place of temptation, the people of temptation. Wherever it might be located, you need to do, number one, recognize the temptation. Number two, draw near to God. But you ought to move and change your location and flee wherever you are that needs to be fled from, okay? You need to move, and you need to take advantage of that way of escape that God's going to provide you when we come under temptation. Recognize temptation, draw near to God, keep on drawing near to God, and flee and move away from the place of location. And then lastly, number four, as you're fleeing, you're drawing near to God, but you're also now speaking truth to yourself. You're putting on the belt of truth, and that means two things. You're drawing near to the one who is truth, but as you are fleeing, you are speaking and rehearsing and preaching truth to yourself. That God is the one that you love. He loves you. He's the one that you desire. He will help you with this temptation. You remember the good news of the gospel that He has saved you, rescued you, sanctified you, and will glorify you. And as you rehearse and repeat the spiritual truths that were given to us in the scriptures, that will help you to be free from this temptation. You might also want to be able to do, as you're walking away, not only speaking truth to yourself as you're fleeing, but you might want to also speak truth to the evil one, who probably, if he's not involved directly, then one of his cohorts is probably involved in some way or another with that temptation. And you need to speak truth to him. Say, Satan, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command that you leave me alone in the name of Jesus. And they will, because they can't stand the name of Jesus. They are allergic to Jesus. And when they hear Jesus' name, they flee. Okay? Now, that's not a complicated process, is it? It's just 4 steps, and it all can happen within 15 seconds. Recognize temptation. Secondly, draw near to God in your heart. Keep on drawing near to God in your heart. Flee. Get away from the location that you're in. Change it. And while you're fleeing, rehearse, repeat, and preach a sermon to yourself about the good news of the gospel and how wonderful and great God really is. And rebuke and tell Satan and the evil one to leave you alone. That's not complicated. That's really not complicated. But every single man that has conquered PMO has employed these strategies in their heart and in their mind and with their feet and with their lips and have overcome this habit of PMO. One other word before we end this particular video. I talk to my clients about the 2-second rule. So the 2-second rule is between the temptation and drawing near to God. So what I tell my clients is when you find out that you've come under temptation by the visual thoughts that you're having, the sexual arousal that you're experiencing, the pondering and delighting in how you're going to feel after you masturbate and have an orgasm, hopefully, which you can all do under 5 to 10 seconds. Now you've got 2 seconds. Once you recognize that you have temptation, you have 2 seconds to draw near to God. If you don't draw near to God, all bets are off. But if you do, within those 2 seconds, draw near to God, He will draw near to you. You can follow through with the rest of the plan by fleeing and preaching the gospel to yourself and to the principalities and powers. And you'll be good to go. But you've got 2 seconds. If it goes to 3 seconds, 4 seconds, and 5 seconds, then you're not drawing near to God, or you're vacillating back and forth from what am I going to do? Maybe I will, maybe I won't, and you're toast. You've got 2 seconds to draw near to God, and if you don't draw near to God, then there's an excellent possibility that you're going to fail again in this matter of giving in to temptation and following through with masturbation and orgasm, okay, and pornography. So that's the 2-second rule. If you're pondering what you're going to, if you're in a maybe, there's yes, I'm going to do it, no, I'm not going to do it. But if you're tempted and you're playing with that temptation and you're thinking about maybe I will, maybe I won't, maybe you'll remember from a previous video that maybe when I've come under temptation, when I'm saying maybe I will, maybe I won't, that means yes. It does not mean no. It means yes, and it's just a matter of time until you give in to, yes, I'm going to do it. And when you do, of course, you'll go follow through with the plan of PMO. Okay, so that's the 2-second rule. Recognize the temptation in the first inning. You've got 2 seconds to draw near to God and to keep on drawing near to God. Flee and preach the gospel to yourself as you do. And very simple, not very complicated, and very efficacious, I'm going to say, very simple, but very successful strategy that's given to us in the scriptures for our benefit. Now, here's something that has frustrated me in the last year in particular. I've had some clients who have worked for years and years and years, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of trying to get on the other side of this PMO habit and been unsuccessful. And despite hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours, Bible studies, seminars, retreats, counseling, a multitude of resources, Bible studies, on internet relationships, and just there's no shortage of aids that are out there to help a man get free from PMO, including counseling with me. But I've been really frustrated recently in the last year as I've counseled men for dozens and dozens of hours, but they're still doing PMO, despite the fact that they've listened to maybe all my videos. I've talked to them about these matters over and over and over and over again, but they're continuing to fail. And when that happens, I just get discouraged. I think, Lord, where am I failing? What am I doing wrong? What's going on in the life of this man that's not enabling him to get over the hump and move past this thing and be able to enter into a period of sexual sobriety, self-control, and purity? And 2 weeks ago, I was reading a passage, and it told me exactly why men continue over and over and over again to fail in this matter of PMO, despite the fact that it can be very simple. But they're not aware of what this one passage is talking about. And so in the next video, I'm going to show you why these men continue to fail over and over and over and over again. And of course, PMO is also a women problem too. And although I've never counseled women relative to this, I would suggest that what's going to be taking place here on behalf of the women too, as to why they continue to fail in these matters. Our next video is going to address that. And that too is not complicated. It's very simple. And I think after spending some time allowing me to teach you about that, I think you'll see that it is indeed simple, and also the way of escape that God gives to us. So look forward to talking to you about this further next time.